I don't look familiar.
But I mean, yeah, so the horror base is really is huge.
Right.
It's huge, and that's what most of the people actually come to me from. So I did Nightmare on Elm Street, those two, but little parts.
Right.
I played the teacher in the first one, which actually got a review in the New York Times. I remember when we did it, and I was
Right.
like, oh my God.
Yeah, that teacher was awesome.
Yeah, well, they did. They said it was one of the few examples of a classroom that really felt like a teacher in a classroom.
Right.
And I don't even think they mentioned my name, but the fact that the character was talked about, I thought was great.
But I think that's for you, and I've before we all met and hung out the other night and kind of whatever. I was always a fan. I was like, every time Lin is doing something, it's doing something.
Oh, thank you.
It's
so
true
much,
though. I mean,
really.
it was the funny thing is, I had known you from the other movie. Obviously, everybody knows you from Something About Mary. Everybody knows you from Detroit Rock City. I suppose Detroit Rock City is something, I love that movie.
And Kingpin is huge.
And Kingpin,
also.
of course, yeah, huge. But then when I saw you in my friend's movie, Joe, The Accidental
Death of Joey by
yeah,
Sue.
and we talked about that, and it was so weird because I met these girls in New York, and we were in the same film festival, and I go, she's awesome, I love her, and then you were so great in that. It's just, but it is. I think you bring a memorable performance to big roles, small roles, whatever, and I think that's a sign of a true actor. No?
I mean, yeah, thank you so much. I mean, you have no idea how much of that means to me because. I mean, seriously, when I've acted that's all I've ever wanted to do. And it wasn't like I wanted to be a professional actress. It was just like that was the way I expressed myself, was making up stories and creating stories. And literally, when I was little, I used to take all my clothes out of my closet and put them in a big pile on the floor. My mother, I drove my mom nuts. And I would make up stories. I had two French doors in my closet that opened with mirrors on, two mirrors.
Right.
And I used to do a whole thing where I would also change, so I could see my back from the mirror. But it wasn't about vanity. It was about, I want to see what this person looks like from the back.
Right.
And I'd put on my clothes backwards and different outfits, and I'd make up stories. And that was really how I entertained myself.
Right.
I didn't have a lot of friends in when I grew up in my neighborhood. So I was really solo, and that was how I expressed myself.
Wow.
So the idea that, and I take it very seriously. I mean,
right.
I honestly, I'm a member of the Actors Studio, and
right.
I've studied with Uta Hagen and Stella Adler and Lee,
right.
who was, when he was there, ran the studio, and have had wonderful. I've studied. I've learned
right.
what to do. Kind of. It's not just a whim. And
right. It's not just. It's just right. I don't just.
And it means I feel like if I don't tell the truth,
right.
then I have failed.
Right.
And even it's auditions where I don't get the job and stuff. If I've tapped into that,
right.
I'm really happy. If I feel like I'm up here somewhere, which often happens, especially in auditions,
right.
because you walk in and it's like, well, where am I?
Yeah, the firing squad, right?
And I've got 10 seconds to tell these people why I should do this role.
Yeah, a lot of people, and a lot of actors. I mean, we have a great audience here that a lot of people don't understand. That a lot of first-time filmmakers or people watching that are actors or are trying to be actors, they don't understand that it is that way. A lot of times, it's not necessarily the performance, it's just not what the director is exactly looking for at that exact time. So it's not you a lot of times, but of course.
It's most of the time not, yeah. Especially, right. Thank goodness, at this point in my career. It's
right,
like,
it's not you, believe me, right. Exactly.
And when I go in on, there's always the same usual suspects.
Right.
I mean, there's like the same handful, especially for television.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
Film is different.
Right. Now, do you have a preference? Is there something deep in your heart? I mean, would you say film is?
Completely, because the process.
Can I stop just a moment? I'm very sorry to interrupt. Your cable got looped over your arm.
Oh, it did, over here.
There you go.
You know what I'm going to do? I think, yeah. Can I do this too? Because now that I'm getting animated, I'm getting hot. Can I do that like this and just sort of?
That works.
Does that work okay?
We're starting to strip, guys.
This is the strip.
We're taking off clothes.
Is that still okay?
My tie's going off next.
Yeah.
I'm going to take your boots off.
My eyes are watering.
You can pick up that last question.
We were talking about, because I feel like the process for both, when you're doing a role, the process is somewhat the same.
Right.
But I always feel in television, the stakes are different because it's about time and money.
Right.
Especially big,
network
networks,
TV.
Yeah.
Right.
And even cable TV has become more like that.
Right.
also doing an hour network show. I've never done it, but I remember talking to Julianne Margulies.
Right.
This was when we did Snakes on a Plane. She hadn't done Good Wife yet.
Right.
But it is, those guys, they earn their money. They get paid a lot of money, and they earn their money because they're there like 15 hours a day often.
They're like the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're grinding.
And it's, and actually the pace of doing a film where you're sort of immersed in something for a given period of time and a character for a given period of time, I much prefer. I don't think I want to play the same person over and over.
Right. And do you find it more personal? I mean, for me, I find it more personal, like the relationship between a director and actor. I mean, on a
film,
feature, right?
Completely.
I mean, you're kind of
because you're there. You're the family,
exactly.
and when you, especially as a guest star, when you come in on television, I did one of the nicest experiences I actually had was the last TV show I did was the final episode of ER, which I'd never been on.
Wow.
And
it was the final episode.
And it was the final episode. It was a great part. It was kind of like a little aria this character has. It's a woman whose mom has dementia and gets hurt and comes into the hospital, and the daughter comes in and is just out of control, kind of. And I wish I could remember the director's name because he was wonderful. It was whoever directed the very first episode of the show directed the final episode, and he worked it with me, which was really unusual. Maybe it was because it was the last episode.
Right, he had maybe a chance to take the time.
But I also learned something about television from him because at the audition, I've never seen anyone laugh that hard, almost ever, at an audition. Then this director almost fell out of his chair, and I thought I either got this job or the guy's gonna, never talk to me or hire me or never talk to me, one of the three. So I got the job, and so when I came, usually what you do with the audition, you completely do when you're on set. I mean, that's what they want. That's why they've hired you. So he kept saying to me, and he gave me notes like he said, "Don't let your voice get high." I said, okay. It's like louder, faster, whatever. Okay, brought my voice down. He said, okay, let's try this. So we tried this. I mean, there were things where I picked my mother. I mean, and he let me go.
Right.
And we shot some of it, and then we rehearsed a little bit. This was all during while we were actually doing the takes.
Right.
And finally, and people were laughing. I mean, it was great. And he said, okay, now just do it with nothing. Just do nothing. Just like you're reading a phone book. Huh. So I said, okay. And that was the take they used.
Wow.
But what he understood as a director, and this is actually an exercise I've done in acting classes way back in the years, where you take it, he let me go as big as I wanted. And then he said, now do nothing. And basically, if you're a pretty good instrument, everything that you did is still there.
Right.
But it's just smaller.
Right.
He also told me, he said, I can't have it be that funny the first 15 minutes of the show. He said, because if we do that, he said, because the way it was a 2-hour episode, and the final, and Swoosie Kurtz, I think, was in it with another wonderful actress, and they were hilarious at the end of the show.
Right.
And I understood after I had done it, even though I thought I was right, I wasn't. Because he had a plan about how he was modulating the 2 hours, what he needed at different points in the story, and it was really great. It was I so wish I could tell you his name. I would have to look it up, but
we'll IMDb it.
Yeah, he was really a fantastic director,
and that's great.
Yeah, so that was my bet. But generally speaking, I prefer film.
And working with huge comedy directors like the Farrellys and. But at the same time, like I think we spoke to the other night, was that for you it's about the work, and you would do, and you've done, the short film that we want to show in the show, and it's all about the work and the characters that you can portray, and that's I think the sign of a true actor, that it really is determined by the work, and I think that's amazing. And so what's your experiences with dealing with shorts in that medium versus an indie film? A smaller indie film.
I think, I kind of always go back to the same basics. Who are the people involved?
Right.
What's the character? What's the story?
Right.
And if any of the three are really interesting to me, I don't want to play the same person over and over. And I have been so fortunate because I honestly don't think I have. I mean, almost everything. I'm getting ready to work on something tomorrow, actually. Called A White Trash Christmas Carol.
Nice.
And she's a Walmart lady, And it's
awesome.
and
awesome.
it's a very you know with a, and I really loved. I liked the script a lot. I
Is
thought
it a short? Is
no, it's a feature.
Okay.
But the short one, like when I met Patrick, he
right.
And I read this little The Election,
right.
and
right.
but for me the key was Ray, because I'd worked with Ray before. Ray Wise is one of my all-time favorite actors on the planet.
Nice, you heard it here.
I loved. I mean, we have he's my Spencer Tracy, and I'm his Katharine Hepburn.
That's fantastic.
I mean, really on some level, and I pray we get to really explore that with a really great director someday and a great story.
Right. Somebody write something for you guys.
I hope so.
That'd
I mean,
awesome.
we did this movie called Dead End together, which has become a Christmas favorite.
Right.
It's a little horror film, and actually I met Patrick. I'm kind of jumping around here a little bit, but through Victor Salvo,
okay,
who said he had a friend. It was like one of those, we were at some festival or something, and you know how people say, oh, I've got a friend who's got a thing,
right.
and he's going to call you, fine, you're great,
right,
I'd love it, whatever, and you never hear from them
right.
again.
Awesome,
basically.
call me.
Right,
yeah.
awesome, call me. And sure enough, I read this little script, and I knew Ray was going to do it. Although Ray didn't know he was going to do it, because there was some like miscommunication where they hadn't talked to his agent or somebody.
Right.
And so I go, is this real? Is Ray really doing it? And then when I found out he was, I mean, and I loved Patrick. This is one of these guys, Patrick Reynolds, who's the director.
The director of Election.
And wrote it also.
Right.
He loves movies. I mean, it's
right.
like when he talks about them, he just changes 100%. He's a movie buff, and it was just the two of us in the piece.
Right.
And we drove out. Where were we? We were in Needles. We were between Las Vegas and Pahrump, or I don't know where we were. We were
right.
somewhere like way out somewhere in a dump.
Wow.
Literally, and it was this place he had found, staying at like the Cutie Bear Motel,
weird,
or something. And it was two of the most fun days I've ever had.
Right.
I mean, there was no lighting; it was all natural light.
Right.
I think they did there was one light setup. I think they did like 42 setups
wow.
a day. It was just moving the camera,
right,
moving the camera, and it was Ray and I. There was one moment we were sitting in the SUV. And the light was coming over the mountains. It was one of those white light moments where you just look outside and it's just unbelievably beautiful. Right. And it was cold. And Patrick's wife, Jen, had made us a great, catered,
right.
a spaghetti dinner with fresh, pasta.
Here's catering,
and salad. And we just had this really good lunch.
Nice.
And we were just sitting in the car looking at each other. And it was we both looked at each other exactly the same time. And we just said, it doesn't get better than this.
And but there's also beauty to that. I mean,
completely.
Especially when it comes for, independent filmmaking, that you have two extremely well-known and established and great actors.
Thank you.
That are doing it for the love of the craft, which, it's, you hear both sides of this, myself as a director, you hear both sides of the story, the coin is when you're doing films. And, you want to hold to hope that there are still those great actors out there that really do that. And it's true, and there is. I really truly believe there is. And obviously you and Ray and, and Patrick and Election is an example of that, which is awesome, And
it reflects, I think the work in it reflects the joy that we had doing it.
Sure.
And because even though we're not playing joy,
sure.
there's a commitment and an energy that comes from that place that I think
great
creates
advice
success.
for first-time filmmakers, student filmmakers doing shorts and things like that.
Yep.
You're hearing it from an actor here that's saying, it's about that collaboration. It's about that relationship,
right.
The trust between a director and his actors, or.
And I going back to I never even thought about doing movies. I mean, I never did. I always did theater. I lived in New York for many years, in New York City, and I was there during a phenomenal time when Off-Broadway was just getting going, and the Manhattan Theater Club and the Chelsea Theater Center and the American Place Theater and the WPA and Lincoln Center, they were all, and the Public Theater, they were all just starting.
Right.
And there was a community of actors and writers and directors. And that was my focus. I mean, I never thought about coming to Hollywood. I mean, it just
right.
didn't even enter my mind. And on some level, my goal was I want to come to Hollywood and be a famous movie star. That's never what I've aspire to.
But you aspire to?
I aspire to the work. I
exactly.
love
and I think,
the work.
And I think
it's like my detective novel. It's
sure.
like figuring it out, and it's always scary.
And would you say that is your sage advice for?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's like, if you don't love it, love the work. If you love what you think is going to be fame, but you don't love the work, you might as well go do something different, because that's not what you can aim for. It's like you got to aim for doing, you know, like I said, like tomorrow I'm working and I'm nervous and
right.
I hope I hope I can bring the stuff, and then something happens when I'm there. You've got to be a vessel, really,
right.
and allow the people around you and the good energy to come in. And sometimes you got to keep a little
yeah.
wall up over around here somewhere for the guy that's like, you know, screaming about something that you really don't need to listen about.
Where's my crafting?
Yeah, really.
It's 5 minutes late.
Yeah, it's up your.
Right. I want my son.
Up your alley.
Right.
And I don't know, that for me is what's kept me, I feel like I'm just beginning. I swear to God. Sometimes I think I'm just starting, you know, and I hope I get there, wherever there is, and then I realize I am already there.
You are there,
I
yeah.
mean, there is here. I mean,
right.
there is the process and the creation, the process of creation. And boy, when it works, there is just nothing, for me, that feels better.
Right.
Nothing. There's just, it's like that moment where you really are a vessel and you feel right. some important stuff is going on.
Sure.
And I think that's, for me, my goal, is to really unleash that important human information. I mean, I can't do a lot for the world, unfortunately. I wish I could, but there really isn't so much I can literally do.
Right.
But that I can do. It's like if you believe somewhere about energy and about transmission and about stimulation of thoughts, important ideas to people.
Right.
I mean, it's crazy what affects people and how that can resonate.
Right.
And I feel as an artist, you know, and it's not just actors, but artists in general. That's our job, is to
right.
to emanate from your center that has to do with your own personal truth,
right.
which then has a larger truth. I mean, I hope
right.
that doesn't sound hocus pocus.
It doesn't. No. I think that's something
real.
we all hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, lovely. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you. I
You're
hope
amazing.
I didn't jabber too much.
You didn't jabber. This is what we're jabbering.
We're
jabber. This is a jabber show. But you're awesome, and I wish you many, many more years of continued success.
Thank you so much.
We'll work together in the future for sure.
I hope so.
I know, it'd be fun.
Really, and all you guys out there who are like just starting or trying, I mean, if you love it, just stay with what you love and give your best. Always do your best. Don't have attitude. Put your attitude into your characters. But do your best and send out good things to the people around you, because you are as good as the people around you. So that's my little message. I wish you all very good luck, because it's really fun.
I don't have
That's
anything
it.
else to say. Thanks so much.
You're so welcome.
You're awesome.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Lin Shaye, and you are watching Short Showcase.
Well, let's get a picture of you. You think?